accept.
The USS Abraham Lincoln has just arrived in Iranian waters as Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth delivers a chilling ultimatum to Tehran. Abandon your nuclear program or face the consequences. While Trump projects American strength abroad, his administration is simultaneously exposing a massive fraud scandal right here at home that could implicate a sitting congresswoman. The pieces of a much larger puzzle are starting to come together. So this isn't just about foreign policy posturing. This is about Trump fundamentally reshaping position on the world stage while cleaning house domestically. When a nuclear carrier group parks outside Iran's territorial waters, every regime from Beijing to Moscow takes notice. They're watching to see if America under Trump will actually follow through on its threats. Meanwhile, the fraud investigation in Minnesota reveals how deep the corruption runs in Democrat-controlled states. Billions stolen from taxpayers while politicians get rich. If Trump can prove this connection, it doesn't just take down individual politicians, it exposes the entire system of how Democrats have been enriching themselves while Americans suffer. But now, speaking of national security vulnerabilities, here's something that every American needs to understand about our strategic mineral supply chain. On January 5th, 2026, the United States Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment capabilities. This isn't just government spending, it's a declaration of intent. You see, America needs uranium. It needs domestic uranium, and it needs it now. The U.S. consumes 50 million pounds of uranium annually, but we only produce 5% domestically. We're dependent on Russia and China for nuclear fuel, the same countries Trump is now confronting militarily. And that is why smart Americans are investing in Atomic Minerals, the only company positioned to capitalize on America's uranium renaissance. While other nations threaten our energy independence, Atomic Minerals is securing America's nuclear future. Their Wyoming project contains the uranium reserves that will power American reactors for generations. So visit the link that is down in the description for your exclusive briefing that they have prepared for you. Because you need to understand American energy dominance before it's too late. Because while Trump projects strength abroad, we need energy independence at home. And we thank them for supporting this show. But here is what the mainstream media won't tell you about this carrier deployment. It's not just about Iran's nuclear program. Sources indicate this is part of a coordinated strategy to completely restructure Middle East power dynamics before other world powers can respond. In that Minnesota fraud investigation, White House sources suggest it's only the tip of the iceberg, with similar patterns emerging in other Democrat strongholds across the country. So let's check in with the press secretary, because she is connecting it directly to Ilhan Omar.
President is referring to is the fact that you have Governor Walz and, again, the mayor, who have been encouraging these left-wing agitators to come out and to harass and to dox and to threaten ICE and to make this conversation about and smear lies about federal law enforcement who, again, are just trying to do their jobs in an attempt to distract from the widespread, massive fraud that has taken place in their state. Billions and billions of dollars has been stolen from law-abiding taxpayers in Minnesota, and the administration continues to be very focused on getting to the bottom of it, especially, and the president raised a good question over the weekend, with respect to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who now has a net worth within the millions, and one must ask themselves why and how is that possible? Is she connected to the fraud rings that we have seen taking place within her state and her own district? It's a question the American people are raising, and the president believes it's one worth answering.
So this right here, while domestic politics swirl at home, news from the Middle East demands immediate attention as military assets move into position. USS Abraham Lincoln has arrived in the Middle East and is near Iran, Israeli media reports. While the USS Abraham Lincoln in Iranian waters, Trump's defense secretary is making the administration's red lines crystal clear. Watch.
You said, Mr. President, we're securing the border. The military was proud to do their part alongside Homeland Security to do that. Same thing with Iran right now. ensuring that they have all the options to make a deal. They should not pursue nuclear capabilities. We will be prepared to deliver whatever this president expects of the War Department, just like we did this month. No other military in the world could have executed the most sophisticated, powerful raid, not just in American history, I would say in world history. What those men did going downtown, another country, their most secure place, in the most secure base, in the middle of the night, without anybody knowing until those simultaneous bombs dropped 3 minutes before the helicopters dropped. No other country could coordinate that. No other president would have been willing to empower those warriors that way, to be that effective.
As Hegseth draws those lines in the sands, Iran's Revolutionary Guard is responding with their own show of force and direct threats. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard publishes a very close video of the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln. There's no benefit to hiding. We know where you are, and our drones can reach you before your planes take off. This is the footage that they have been playing, trying to intimidate us. A surveillance drone flying over an American aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf. It's unclear if that is the Lincoln or not, but I'm sure that our planes would have no problem taking those out of the sky. The IRGC's threatening video underscores Hegseth's repeated warnings about preventing Iranian nuclear ambitions at all costs. Here's more from the Secretary of War.
With Iran right now, ensuring that they have all the options to make a deal. They should not pursue nuclear capabilities. We will be prepared to deliver whatever this president expects of the War Department, just like we did this month. No other military in the world could have executed the most sophisticated, powerful raid, not just in America.
These consistent messages from the Secretary of War reveal a coordinated strategy. And here's more from Hegseth.
Thing with Iran right now, ensuring that they have all the options to make a deal. They should not pursue nuclear capabilities. We will be prepared to deliver whatever this president expects of the War Department, just like we did this month.
And continuing, behind the diplomatic language lies a stark military reality that's reshaping America's reputation on the world stage. Secretary of War on reversing the Biden administration's posture.
Well, Mr. President, you had to, like so many other cabinet members have referenced, rebuild the perception of America. And at the Department of War, that meant reestablishing deterrence. What happened in Afghanistan, what happened in Ukraine, a war that never would have occurred, what happened on October 7th in Israel, never would have happened under President Trump. So as a result, we're having to rebuild how our enemies perceive us. And when President Trump said, we're not getting a nuclear, Iran, you won't have a nuclear bomb, he meant it. And we sent those B-2s halfway around the world, and they never noticed. When he said, we're not going to tolerate trafficking drugs anymore in our hemisphere, we treat them like the Al-Qaeda of the Western Hemisphere, he meant it, and we're executing that. When you said, Mr. President, we're securing the border, the military was proud to do their part alongside Homeland Security to do that. Same thing with Iran right now, ensuring that they have all the options to make a deal. They should not pursue nuclear capabilities. We will be prepared to deliver whatever this president expects of the War Department, just like we did this month. No other military in the world could have executed the most sophisticated, powerful raid, not just in American history, I would say in world history. What those men did going downtown, another country, their most secure place, in the most secure base, in the middle of the night, without anybody knowing until those simultaneous bombs dropped 3 minutes before the helicopters dropped. No other country could coordinate that. No other president would have been willing to empower those warriors that way, to be that effective. And that sends a message to every capital around the world that when President Trump speaks, he means business, and we are reestablishing deterrence at the War Department, Mr. President.
Thank you. Great job you're doing.
Continuing here, we have This rebuilding of American strength directly influencing Trump's recent decision-making on potential strikes. Reporter asked, did Arab and Israeli officials convince you not to strike Iran?
Did Arab and Israeli officials convince you to not strike Iran?
Nobody convinced me. I convinced myself. You had yesterday scheduled over 800 hangings. They didn't hang anyone. They canceled the hangings. That had a big impact.
While Trump shows restraint on military action, his Treasury Secretary is launching a different kind of warfare through economic pressure. The United States stands firmly behind the Iranian people in their call for freedom and justice at the direction of President Trump. The Treasury Department is sanctioning key Iranian leaders involved in the brutal crackdown against the Iranian people.
My message today is to the Iranian leadership on behalf of the people of Iran who cannot speak for themselves. Last March, we predicted that President Trump's maximum pressure campaign against the Iranian regime would accelerate an economic collapse. Since then, our sanctions efforts have been effective in slashing oil exports and cutting revenue. The currency and living conditions are in freefall. The early warning signs are already flashing in the Iranian economy. The regime continues to egregiously mismanage its economic resources with additional subsidies and price controls. The central bank is broke and printing money. Hyperinflation is next. Rather than building a prosperous Iran, the regime has chosen to squander what remains of the nation's oil revenues on nuclear weapons development, missiles, and terrorist proxies around the world. Civilians are rightly protesting mismanagement and economic collapse. President Trump stands with the people of Iran and has ordered Treasury to sanction members of the regime. Iran's leaders have brutally responded to peaceful demonstrations with violence, from mass shootings in the street to attacks on wounded victims in hospitals. Today's sanctions target 18 individuals and entities that the regime uses to evade sanctions on Iranian oil and divert proceeds from its energy sales away from the rightful owners, the Iranian people. Tehran's natural resources belong to its people and not its brutal dictators. Treasury will continue to target Iranian networks and corrupt elites that enrich themselves at the expense of average Iranians. This includes the regime's attempts to exploit digital assets to evade sanctions and finance cybercriminal operations. Additionally, President Trump has announced a 25% tariff on countries that continue to do business with Iran. Our message to the Iranian people is clear. Your demands are legitimate. You are protesting for a noble cause, and the United States supports you and your efforts to peacefully oppose the regime's mismanagement and brutality. Our message to the Iranian leaders is also clear. U.S. Treasury knows that like rats on a sinking ship, you are frantically wiring funds stolen from Iranian families to banks and financial institutions around the world. Rest assured, we will track them and you, but there's still time if you choose to join us. As President Trump has said, stop the violence and stand with the people of Iran.
Treasury Secretary making it clear as the administration applies maximum pressure through sanctions, critics argue Democrats are being forced into defending America's enemies. Trump derangement syndrome has caused Democrats to defend Iran. Oh, boy, this is the Steve Hilton show.
It is interesting to me how, just broadly, Donald Trump sends people into crazy positions, because he's now so strongly associating himself with the protesters and saying that there'll be a price to be paid if they're hurt. So suddenly, in classic fashion, we must be against it because Trump's for it. On the Greenland issue, right? Suddenly, you've got all these people on the left who are basically now coming out in favor of white colonialism. Denmark colonizing Greenland. And no, we're for the colonialists.
I had a listener who put it so beautifully. I've referenced him probably like 8 times now. He called into the program, to the Morning Answer last week, and he said the one thing that's been amazing to watch about Trump is how he has put people who are liberal and on the left on the razor's edge, basically scrambling to defend, for instance, Nicolas Maduro, right? That was the story last week. You had the Biden administration come out and say, well, Trump would never be tough on Maduro because he admires dictators, right? Well, then when Trump goes in and arrests Maduro for the crimes that we believe he's committed, well, now poor Maduro. I mean, you really do have people who are playing moral shape shifting, I think, because they have such a bad case of Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh, my goodness. You can't make this stuff up, man. Caroline Levitt, the unstoppable USS Abraham Lincoln just rolled into the Arabian Sea, fully armed to the teeth and primed to unleash hell. Do you back the U.S., UK helping?
The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group has reached the Arabian Sea and is currently positioned near the Gulf of Oman, which is very close to Iran. From this position, fighter jets can take off from the aircraft carrier and carry out bombing missions against Iran at any time. In addition to this, the United States has delivered advanced air defense systems and other military equipment to all its bases across the Middle East. The Carrier Strike Group has been deployed close to Iran specifically for this reason, to conduct airstrikes if required. A Carrier Strike Group typically consists of 6 to 8 ships. This includes 1 aircraft carrier, which carries around 70 fighter jets and support aircraft. This is followed by 2 to 3 guided missile destroyers, mainly Arleigh Burke class destroyers, which are used for air defense as well as cruise missile attacks. If the United States launches an attack on Iran, Tomahawk cruise missiles would likely be fired from these Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. The strike group also includes 1 guided missile cruiser, usually a Ticonderoga-class cruiser. Its primary role is to intercept and neutralize incoming enemy missiles, and it plays a key role in protecting the aircraft carrier. In addition, the Carrier Strike Group includes 1 nuclear-powered attack submarine, which is also capable of launching Tomahawk cruise missiles. Finally, there is 1 supply or logistics ship, responsible for providing fuel, weapons, and other essential supplies to the combat ships. This Carrier Strike Group has been deployed by the United States specifically for a potential attack on Iran and is currently awaiting an order from Donald Trump.
Just awaiting an order from Donald Trump. That's how close we are. So this is the Trump doctrine in action. Maximum pressure abroad, maximum accountability at home. While the USS Abraham Lincoln sends an unmistakable message to Tehran, investigations into Democrat corruption send an equally clear signal to the Washington establishment. Trump isn't just draining the swamp, he's showing the world that America under his leadership won't tolerate threats from foreign enemies or domestic criminals. So the carrier group deployment and fraud investigations represent 2 sides of the same coin. Trump's commitment to American strength and integrity, while Democrats spent years weakening our position internationally and enriching themselves domestically, Trump is systematically reversing both trends. The Iranian regime now faces the full might of American naval power, while corrupt politicians face the full weight of American justice. This is what happens when you have a president who actually puts America first instead of his own political interests. Check out the Next News merch shop to show your support for real American leadership. But the question is simple. Are you ready for an America that projects strength abroad while demanding accountability at home?
The system controls information. Information control is power. They don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this. Share this now.